Okay, we are here again. Peace to all beings and mercy. What you're beginning to understand is your interpretive function of what you're hearing and reading and seeing in your media and things. It's a controlled thought form to get you organized into certain patterns, to get you beings organized into certain patterns on one side or the other. This is why we told you years ago not to choose sides. Choose yourself and be independent in the space that you are, and know the safety that you are in. Trust God and the Virgin Mother. You're in deep subconscious now. And by that deep subconscious, I mean you think you know what you're doing and you're going to proceed in a manner for your own will. By your own will, rather. You've got to understand this God's will thing. It's a presence that's within you and about you. And the demonic forces are trying to influence you otherwise. To forget the Father, to forget the Mother, and to forget the Son. Alright? When you were a sperm, you swam to the egg. When you were a sperm, you swam to the egg, competing with other sperms to be the first to enter. Yes, there was a consciousness there. You didn't know what you were going to be like. You didn't know what race you were going to be in, but you were determined to enter the egg. And you did, and you proceeded through the fetus and became a human being. Now, where did that thought come from? Within the sperm. It came through the father, your father, the physical father, yet not as him. You went independently through that human body to enter an egg to be born within the physical. Independently you did. You probably even enticed and excited the union so you could participate in life here. But you don't remember that. You don't know how you did it. But I'll tell you, you answered supplications. Because when you beings play with this sexual act, you're making promises, you're calling beings, and you're creating I'm going to say, a circus environment that many attend and try to enter into the play of it. That's what's happening. That's what happens in the birth process. Now, when you're out there, you don't realize that. You look for any way to get here because you experience what is termed in your world, your will to have freedom, your free will thing. But there's that thy will be done thing. Out in the divine aspects, you're intelligent enough to understand you don't have free will. You're in the presence of the divine force which does everything, and you don't have to do a thing. It's all presented, it's all there. And then your arguments come up about your meanness, my I amness, me. I'm me. You've got to recognize this meanness, M-E-N-E-S-S, not mean, me. The consciousness of self, we'll call it. You're in that enthusiastic recognition of that now. You are in the enthusiastic recognition of yourself. You're finding out that things didn't work out the way you thought they were going to. You're finding out that is not quite the process I had desired the outcome of. So you correct yourself. You sit and you reclaim what is called the space of your divinity, yourself. You get back into your bones, your skeletal structure, and you begin to understand the overlays that came to you. You're going to have to slow down your thought processes recognize the bumps in the heart, we'll call them, the little inner urges. Oh, that thing. You're going to have to understand yourself within the text. I'm going to say within the text of your biblical structure. You need to look at the religion you were born in. Now, whether your father or your mother were in a particular religion doesn't matter. What matters is, and even if they weren't in a religion, it doesn't matter. What matters is the genetic influence that came through your father and your mother that had a religious background to it. Somewhere it did, somewhere in your line. You need to check that out, because that's what that's the train track you came down on. You beings forget that you are in a line of succession from your grandparents and your great-grandparents, and you have your heredity and all that. All that influence is within your genetic structure. That's why sometimes it's important to look at your background, not to the influence of your grandparents, etc., but not to exalt yourself, but to understand the competition that you're in. By competition, I mean the corrections that you have to make. Because everyone has made mistakes. Everyone. And you're still making them. But you can correct by knowing what your innocence didn't know as you came through your genetic line. And you get back into your innocence. The childlike behavior. That's what says you in your books. Become as a little child. That's what you have to do. Have you seen the size of the doors in those temples of Luxor? The size of the doors themselves compared to the human size. That was the size of the beings that inhabited that place at that time. So you are still like a little child compared to them. You've only come up to their ankle bone, pretty much. And you're learning to not be so intimidated by it, but to be aware of the awesome power involved there. Because with that power, you accumulate responsibility. Not to rule over others, but to dictate and work within the process called nature, Mother Earth. Her. She's moving. She's tilting, being tilted. Volcanoes are going off. Your oceans are flooding. The storms are going to get more intense. You're going to have to learn how to talk to the wind, the Lord of the Wind. You better figure out his name. There's a Lord of the Earth. I will tell you that name. That's Uriel, one of the choirs of angels you term the virtues. Now, if you don't know what virtues are, look it up. Virtuous. It applies to you. You're under that jurisdiction now. Uriel guards the gate of Hades. No one goes through there unless he gives permission. That's the way it works. And that's what you're working on now, to get through that gate so you can get into the, what you call, interdimensional vortex that we talked about earlier, and recognize yourself there, on the other side, on this side, and in the middle. You will identify yourself with your Trinity. You're all connected to a group of angels. And don't go into the process of the greater group or this or that or the other. Allow the angels to introduce yourself to you so you will know the proper processes to advance yourselves and be available for the petition of others, because they're going to petition. There's going to be a great petitioning happening. The crying, a need for peace, a need for the ability to, not worry about the next thought that is coming. To be in a manner present, with helpful thoughts to ones. That's why the monks pray a lot. That's why the monks and Tibetans have developed these tumblers that you spin so the prayers can go up. Because they need a lot of prayers. The world needs a lot of prayers. But as you'll see on your meter, there are not many praying. They're in the process of justifying themselves, influencing others, instead of being of service to ones. Most don't know what service is. They complain about if they do something, they're not getting paid enough. It's lucky you have a recognition for at least a little bit of what you've done. You've all been under attack for years. Your knowledge base has been under attack. Your ability to understand the divine and within you has been under attack. And you put up your fences and structures. My advice to you now is get a feather. Any feather that presents itself to you. And know that God is in all the feathers, of all the birds, everywhere, all of the time. God is the one that allows the birds to fly with the feathers and their skeletal structure. He is the one flying the birds. So if you gather yourself a feather or see which feather presents itself to you, you allow the feather to communicate to you. Don't ask anything. Don't ask a thing. Allow the feather to communicate with you. There's a reason that feathers are used in ceremonies. There's a very real reason feathers are used in ceremonies. Spiritual ceremonies I'm talking about. They have a consciousness. Even though if they're not still in the bird, presence of Father is still in the feather. So my advice to you is to allow a feather to be presented to you. Don't have to go get one. Be aware of where you see one and pick it up. That's the presentation. That's how it works. Go gathering and grabbing feathers is not going to work. See which bird drops the feather, pick the feather up, and thank the Father for the feather. Put it at your desk and put it at your nightstand. Trust me on this. You're working into an area where you're going to have to realize there's another consciousness and other beings besides yourself in the human condition. There's consciousness in the feather, and the ability to communicate with the feather is a secret technique. You can spin it counterclockwise in your hand, or you can spin it clockwise. Counterclockwise clears a lot of energy that's been in the negative vortexes of your system. That's why it's nice to brush your auric field with a feather, to clean yourself, to remember the feathery nature of God, the gentleness, the divine force that's everywhere, and it's all around you. You just forgot it, that's all. And you feel the feathery influence around you as you flutter yourself. And by that I mean, as you shake yourself a little bit, as you do when you take a shower. Everything's cleaning your auric fields from the residue of what you pushed out from your negative thought processes. So a feather helps clear you, and particularly in the heart chakra, with the blessings of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit across the heart chakra with a feather, and the communion of all in nature, and the invisible spiritual nature, and the thankfulness that you're allowed to do this with nature. And you'll feel a movement in your back, what I call the grand chakra there, which is this, your astrological, horoscope is there. It's where the planets are set, and it's how it moves around, how you're connected. It's not around you, it's in your back. Sun's in the center, right behind your heart chakra. I'm giving you this information so you can proceed with yourself and understand yourself and nature. You understand yourself with nature. So allow the feather to come to you. Ask for the feather. When it comes, appreciate it. Please, for your own benefit and for the benefit of those in your family and your neighbors. Please to all beings, especially to ones that don't know. Fairness to self. We are through.